All right, everyone, and welcome to the Toon podcast. My name is Craig. I am joined by Mark down in Brisbane. Today, we are going to be talking about the up-and-coming winter transfer window, which is always fun if you're a Newcastle fan, and it's always had some dark days as well coming from previous windows. Mark, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing okay. I feel like I've had 3 Christmas dinners in a row and I'm ready to sleep for a week. But hopefully, just having a chill day today. A few beers, some PlayStation time, and now onto the heavy lifting before the transfer window lifts.
Yeah, so it's currently 2-3 days away from the transfer window open. So I thought we'll dive in, get a little bit of a preview on this as quick as we possibly could. We will be keeping everybody updated with incomings and outgoings throughout the window if and when we possibly can. But first of all, Mark, touching on the importance of the window, following on the shit show that was the summer transfer window, how important is this in your eyes?
It's not just on the back of the summer window either. It's on the back of the previous January and not a huge window for the summer before either. But yeah, this summer just gone, I think all of us were expecting to push on. We want to get some extra bodies in. We couldn't shift anyone, which meant we couldn't bring anyone in. And obviously the big stories of that window were massively overpaying for a keeper on a dodgy fiddle with Nottingham Forest that actually saw Elliot Anderson go the other way, which I think everyone was really disappointed to lose. Yeah. He's subsequently played really well for them this season, but it's probably, in hindsight, it's probably good for the player, but at the time it was a real letdown for the fans. We lost Minte without even kicking a ball for us to Brighton. It was just, we just didn't really do enough, and I think it left everybody a bit flat. We had that massive chase for Gay, which amounted to nothing. I think by the time we were hitting the end of the window, it was like, what the hell are we paying that much for him anyway for? Look, it was one of those windows where, draw a line under it, but hopefully we get back on track, because I think the fans need a lift. I think the club needs a lift. I think the manager needs some extra tools at his disposal, if for nothing else than just to refresh the squad a little bit, inject a little bit of more enthusiasm and promise, and hopefully, and I'm sure we'll touch on this as well, give the players that are already there a reason to still buy into the project as well. Like we're not just stagnating, we are actually still trying to build to something.
Yeah, it's that's going to be key. And I think Eddie alluded to that in one or two of his press conferences, that new players come in, refresh the squad, give it a new vibe, new personalities in and around the place, that sort of thing. And we know how big Eddie is on having the correct personality in and around the club as well. Yeah. That type of people can be infectious and just bring others into a new frame and just spark things up again, which is exactly what we need, because we are currently on a peak. We are climbing the table. We're progressing in the cup. But just because we are on the up doesn't mean to say we should stay stagnant in terms of transfers in and out. As much as you're on a high, we've got to keep going on that one. So hopefully we can do the right things for players in and out. And it's going to be the outs where we start on this podcast right now. So the first name that springs to everybody's lips in terms of leaving this window, and I think it's pretty much a no-brainer, and that is Migy. There's been talk of him being sold for probably the 2 previous windows, the January one, then the summer window, and now it's come full circle to this upcoming January window too, with Charlotte FC, who apparently had a club in the MLS. They had a bid for him back in the summer window. Whether that bid was accepted or not, we're not too sure, but they have exclusive rights on Migy for a short period of time. If negotiations fall through, then other clubs can come in for him. The reported fee is £8.5 million, but that will include a 25% sell-on fee back to Migy's previous club. What do you make of that fee, and do you think it'd be a good move for all parties if it comes off?
So I think before, outgoings for me is the key, and I think it's worth noting Something that's not really talked about enough is it's not just about us having the money to pay a fee for a new player. It's having the salary cap as well. It's having that wage room. Right now, our biggest issue with PSR isn't actually the transfer fees. It's our wage to turnover ratio. And that's where we're actually really struggling. And I think that's why we're not signing anybody until we get players out the door. And I think that's possibly what happened in the summer as well for any incoming players. We were hoping to get players out the door. So getting some of the dead wood out of the door, I think, is crucial for us this January. It's never easy. I don't think we're going to get premium top dollar for any of the players that we are going to try and shift. Migy, to me, that feels low, but realistically, I don't see us ever getting anything more than that for him. I love Migy. I've appreciated his time, his effort. He's always given 100% for the club. He's always had his limitations, but the main thing for me is there was always a need in the new build to upgrade on that position at some point. And we're probably maybe a window or 2 windows too late to actually get that upgraded position. Hindsight's 2020, and it would have been great to have a right winger come in instead of Harvey Barnes when Harvey Barnes now looks like a bit of a luxury on the left, given how well Gordon is there. But I think Jack's touched on it, where I think the idea was probably to put Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right. But because Gordon's played so well on the left while Barnes was out injured, it's kind of created a bit of an issue, and we've had to kind of pivot on that. To me, Migy, it's weird with the whole sell-on stuff to the MLS and all of that. There's some weird clauses and rules going on in that league at the moment. Typically American, trying to rewrite the books on anything that they touch. But look, if you ask me if we can get 8.5 for Migy in January, I'd snap someone's hands off for it.
Yeah, I think everybody would say exactly the same type of thing. He's getting no game time. It's limited at best. Getting the odd last few minutes of a cameo appearance. He knows his time at the club is up. It's just a case of, a fond farewell. We wish you the best. You've done your job for the club. Thank you for your service. But it's time for you to move on. And I don't think anyone will have really a bad word to say against Migy for his tenure that he's been here. Yes, he's had his critics, and to be honest, I've been one of them as well, because he has had some awful performances. But he also had that spell, season before last, or whatever it was, where he pretty much guaranteed us European football, the way he was playing.
Yeah, so to me, one of the things that I always keep harping back to is we would not have qualified for the Champions League had it not been for Migy's purple patch. So, agreed. You need to keep this in mind. And it's always one of these things where I see people on social media and chat groups and stuff where they're criticizing the player for not moving. And it's like, well, if he doesn't want to move to where there's an offer, that's entirely up to the player. I'm not going to ever criticize a player if he doesn't want to go to the Saudi league. We can't have it both ways. We can't say, oh, well, why are they're going to ruin their career in the Saudi league because it's a no-name league and they're just going for the money, and then go, well, actually, no, you should be taking that because we want rid of you. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to accept it both ways. And to me, you can't have the club going out of their way to push a player out the door, because it sends the entirely wrong message to all the other players that are in the squad that you do want to keep, that you want to make sure that they know you appreciate them, they know that you'll look after them, so they're willing to kind of stick around more and be invested in the club more. And you can't do that if you start treating the players like shite. Yeah,
completely agree. It makes perfect sense. Just sends the wrong message to the rest of the camp. Another name that has been linked with a move away, and again, it was last January, he was linked to a move to Bayern Munich, whether it was a loan or permanent, not too sure. But Kieran Trippier, do you see this one happening? And you think Trips is up for the move, given his game time is limited with how good Tino's been playing?
I genuinely don't know what's going on with that one at the moment. The stories were all surrounding the fact that he'd had it away on the side and his missus had kicked him out and he'd been unhappy and he wanted to move away to get away from all of the drama and all that. How much of that's true, I don't know. I think there's probably, there's no smoke without fire and all that. But my big concern with Trippier is his leadership is still there. And I think you saw it at the weekend against Aston Villa. he was almost like that calming influence at the back. And I'm not saying that I don't appreciate Tino, because I think he is the future of the club, but there's a massive difference between Tino being a good player and Trippier maybe not being as athletic these days as Tino can be, but his leadership qualities and his calming influence and just being able to organize everything around him, I don't think you can understate that, even if it means that he's on the bench and he's still being able to kind of have that influence in the dressing room. The big thing for me is he will open up, if he does move, he will open up a big chunk of wages, which could help us then sign up all these other players and give us that little bit of breathing room. Me personally, I'd prefer him to stay if we could. If he wants to be away, I'm definitely not going to stand in his way for the right price.
Yeah, well, rumored wages is 150k a week. He's one of the club's top earners, and to be honest, rightly so for the position he has held at the club.
No question, no doubt.
But yeah, you're right. If the wages need to be freed up, and he's one of the players that, you know what, I think my time here is done at the club. Let's move on, go somewhere else. Let's help out another club. Even if he just wants to, even if renegotiate another year, but take a drop in wages or something like that, I'd be happy to see him at the club for another year if he was to take a drop in pay.
Yeah, I've got no problem. If it to me, it all comes down to the player. If the player has it in his head that he wants to leave, I'm certainly not going to stop him from leaving. I certainly wouldn't want us to stand in his way. He will forever be known as the one who took the plunge on us first, given the precarious position we were in when Eddie Howe took over and when the new owners came in. Kieran Trippier first through the door. He helped put us on the straight and narrow, got us safety, and he's helped build us up to where we are right now. So he will forever be a club legend for that. And so for me, it's entirely in the player's hands what he wants to do. I'm happy to go with.
Yes, and I'd be happy either way. Like I say, if he stays, fantastic. We've got a brilliant leader there. If he does leave, it's freed up the wages. We'll get a nominal fee for him. I can't imagine it be that much, but a fee is a fee regardless. And the next player, and I think this is all but pretty much confirmed again due to Eddie's body language the other day, is Martin Dubravka on his way to Saudi Arabia to El Shabab, I believe the club is. Their main keeper just done his ACL, so they are in desperate need of an experienced player. He's got 6 months left of his contract. Rather than winding it down and letting him leave on a free, we'll get some type of fee for him. But given the situation and the injury to Nick Pope, is this something that you would hang on maybe until the end of the window to do, until Pope is back, or just get him out the door and get whatever little funds in we can for him?
Let's be honest, he's not going to get a new contract. He's leaving on a free at the end of the season. If we can get anything for him in January, and I know there's been like 500k or something stupid like that floated around, I'd be hoping for more than that. If PIF can overpay for Chelsea and Liverpool players, I don't see why they can't overpay a bit for one of our squad players. But let's be honest, like Dubravka's just kept 3 clean sheets in the league in a row. Like he's actually done really well. I've never had a problem with him. I've always liked him as a keeper, but he definitely has limitations when it comes to how we want to play at the moment. Like we are very much about pushing up from the back, which means we need a keeper that's going to play as that sweeper keeper and is going to be comfortable with the ball at his feet, as well as being a good shot stopper. Unfortunately, Dubravka is very much nailed to his goal line, and we've been caught out a few times with that. I think we're kind of coping with that now because we're aware of that, and I think because Tonali's in there maybe as a little bit more of a holding midfielder to fill in the spaces, it's not quite as evident at the moment. But yeah, for me, look, if we can get a fee for him, sayonara, thanks for the memories. But we've got like what, 5 keepers at the club? Like,
John Ruby will be on his way in the summer window as well. He'll go. His contract's up.
But if they can't come in and play Premier League football, they shouldn't be at the club. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, agreed. Aye. Totally agreed. But would you, again, given the situation injury to Pope, would you let this transfer drag till the end of the window, then let him go? Or just take the funds from, say, day one and say, no, Pope's only a game or 2 away, and we'll just play Vlachodimos if we have to until Pope is back? Because for God's sake, I really don't want to play Gillespie or John Ruddy. That would be
No.
worst case scenario.
It's a tough one. It is actually a tough one. Like you kind of almost want to keep him around until Nick Pope's about ready to come back in. If you don't want to be playing Vlack, like I don't know. Like it's just you can kind of make an argument either way, and I don't actually know which way I would go at the moment, because at the end of the day, we've got some really important games coming up that I think we need an established keeper to be around for. I don't really want to be throwing an untested keeper in for the cup semi-finals. We've got Tottenham away. We could cash in straight away, but if we don't get a replacement in, then it's going to cause some issues in squad depth, I think. So yeah, it's a tough one, and I genuinely don't know which way I would go.
Well, let us know in the comments down below which way you would do that transfer. It does look like that one is pretty much nailed on. It's just a case of when, I think, for that one. Hopefully it happens towards the end of the window, just so Pope is back. He is expected to be back sometime in January. Two other names for the outs. Just want to quickly gloss through these two. One of them is Matt Target. Could you see him potentially either going out on loan, or if somebody comes in with a cheeky bid and says, look, we'll take him off your hands, we'll give him first team football, the player wants that, would you be okay with Target moving on this window?
I'd not stand in his way if he was keen to go for first team football. I actually think he's a really good player. He was outstanding in our relegation battle season when he was on loan for us, and rightly so. We got a permanent deal sorted for him. He's just had horrendous injury problems since then, and he's not been, and he's not going to get first choice back ever again, pretty much, as long as Hall's fit. And we've got Kelly there for left back as well. If you could get some money in for him, then again that all goes towards a bit of a rebuild in other key areas that we aren't quite so stacked in as left back options.
And one other name, he's currently not actually listed as a Premier League player, but he's been around since the likes of Jacob Murphy and whatever signed, and that is Isak Hayden. He's got to be a player we've got to look to, just again, free up the wages, move on. He's had more loans than Wonga, that fella. It's just literally a case of, again, thanks for your service, but you have to find a permanent club. A loan deal just will not cut it anymore.
Bloody Mike Ashley and his 8-year contract.
Yeah.
Look, Hayden always made it known that he wanted to leave, and I was really impressed by his professionalism. He never once down tools. He never once stopped playing for us. He gave everything in every game that he could. For me, he again, it's like I would let him go on a free if somebody wanted him, just to free up the wages. I don't think he owes us anything. I don't think we owe him anything. Yeah. If he can get that permanent move somewhere, then good luck to him.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with that one. He'll be fondly remembered on these bots, definitely so. And one other quick question before I move on to the potential incomings for the window: are you mildly terrified that we may lose Bruno or Isak this window?
I'm sick and tired of hearing about Arsenal and Isak. That's for sure. I think it's more for the fact that we apparently seem to be going to let him leave for 80 million or something, or something stupidly low. It's like we paid 60 odd million for him. He's like pretty much one of the top strikers in the Premier League right now, proven goal scorer, has more to his game than the likes of Haaland and whatever. It's just annoying the shit out of me now with all of the media links and the fans just hyping it up as if they've got some God-given right to have whoever they want from whichever club that they decide to cherry pick the best players from. I don't think it's quite sunk in that we're not that club anymore. For me, it's probably less of an issue. I don't know if we will openly be trying to sell any of those players. I think for a PSR situation, it's always going to be an option if the money's right. But I think in the summer window, I think I was kind of like, I was very worried about losing Bruno, but I'd kind of got myself to a point where I'd accepted the fact that, look, if Man City come in for him, it's going to be stupidly good money for us. It's going to give us a huge PSR lift in terms of us being able to re-spend that money to rebuild the squad and hopefully get better. My issue is, who are you going to replace the likes of Bruno, the likes of Isak with? Because I don't think there's another player out there that really fits that mold. So you're kind of going to have to try and replace them in the team game. Like you're not going to add another goal scorer like Alexander Isak, but you may get a goal poacher plus a creator for the same money that still nets you the same amount of goals, you know. And it's I feel a bit like Moneyball, like recreate them in the aggregate sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things where I'm kind of at peace because I know we won't let them go on the cheap, and I don't think the players are pushing necessarily for leaving. Bruno, certainly, I don't think he's got any intentions of going.
No.
Isak to Arsenal, I think, is going to drag on. And it's just because of the entitlement of their fans and the media, and like, you know, nobody else can have a shiny toy but the chosen few clubs. But if we can keep hold of those players, and as I said at the beginning, if we can add to the squad in January and then have a big push and get some European football, then realistically there's no need for them to go because we are still progressing in the right direction.
Correct. Yeah. 100% agree. I think the chance of either of them leaving this window are almost slipping on. And I think the fact that our performances and league position have moved up a notch over the past few games is just probably put it back in the head that, yep, this is still a team that it once was. We can go further and we will go further. And obviously there's a cup semi-final to play for as well. So that's a potential option for a trophy for them. So who knows? We'll see what the window brings. It always brings out some surprises towards the end as the days and weeks drag on for it. That's going to be the end of the outgoings. Hopefully one or two do move on. Again, they will get our blessing. But again, we do need to free up the wages and bring in some funds because our favourite three letters, PSR, are just going to come back and kick us in the arse. But let's move on to the exciting part now, the ins. Now, I wouldn't expect any big names, no big stars or anything, because we seem to create the worldies rather than buy them in as they are, which, to be honest, I think is the correct way to go about it. I had a little conversation with Keegan about it, about how we buy Keegan, we buy players in young, we build them up, and then we sell them on for a profit. But do you think we've got to get the balance of that right? Buy young, do them up like we have done with Hall and Tino, etc. But you've also got to buy in that mid-age 25 to 28-year-old player who has that experience to move us forward if some of those players do leave.
The players that we're talking about leaving, I don't know if you necessarily need to replace those. Like, obviously we've mentioned Kieran Trippier is a huge influence in that dressing room. Yeah. So losing that is going to be a big hole to fill. I'm not sure you're going to get the same from anyone you bring in. The type of player that Kieran Trippier is, most clubs are not going to let go in their prime. So not without sort of breaking the bank, and I don't think we're going to do that. But yeah, to me, I think you don't want to be buying in like 18, 19-year-olds necessarily to expect them to play straight away. I think we do still need some first team ready players to come straight in and be competing for a starting position to improve us in the here and now, and then you worry about that long-term stuff. But let's be honest, I mean, you know, Lewis Hall's just turned 20, so yeah, if they're good enough, you know, what was it Alex Fergie said was like, if they're old enough, if they're good enough, they're old enough. You know, the Lewis Hall, you cannot fault him. I hope that fans don't start moaning again with Eddie Howe taking his time to bring these new players in. If we do sign anyone, that's the only problem. It's you know, just because we get a new player, they're not going to come straight into the team. We know that. Sven Botman's coming back from injury, and there's no way he's walking straight into that team when we've just kept 3 clean sheets in a row. He will have to earn his place back, as every player does under Eddie Howe, and that, I think, is something everyone needs to understand and get used to. And the same will happen with the new players. I've got no problems with us going young in this window if it means we get some extra talent in.
No, fair enough. Let's get your opinion on that one. First name on the list, and I am actually going to butcher the pronunciation of this one, and that is Abu Dukador Kusenov. Got the surname pretty much spot on there. He's a 20-year-old right-footed centre-back who plays for RC Lens in Ligue 1 over in France. Very quick, physical defender, 6 foot tall, good pace, got a good burst of acceleration on them. His composure apparently is a little bit on the iffy side, but again, he's only 20 years old. A fee of around 20 million is what's reported by Mark Douglas, and rumour has it the player is open to the move as well. Now, one thing with this player, and I've been YouTubing all day, and because he's on YouTube, therefore he is world class, and he will be even better again. As you just mentioned, we've got the likes of Botman coming back. There's still Share, there's Burn, there's Kelly who can fill in at centre back as well. And there is also even Emil Kraft, who has slotted in that right-sided centre back position. If this was a deal that was coming this January window, would you think it would make sense to loan him back to his previous club just to let them have him for the remainder of that season? So we've got the deal done. We've got it signed on the line. Come 1st of July, when the new season starts, he's already a player we've got through that door, but we already have the experience in there right now.
Yeah, it makes sense to kind of keep him developing at that age. I don't think he's going to end up coming in at that age to be first choice centre back. He will be, as we've been going on for a while now, he'll be the long-term replacement for Fabian Schär and a long-term Sven Botman partner. It's difficult though, because it's like you're kind of buying a player in. You've only got to give 6 months away at his parent club that he's at the moment, and you kind of, does that then mean he's basically having to pick everything up and get up to speed fitness wise and learn the club culture and all of that in just a pre-season when he's going to be expected to play next season? If the plans are that next season we're just going to kind of bring him on, then yeah, no problems loaning him back. If he's expected to play games for us next season, or even this season, then no way. You need to kind of get him embedded into the club, learn how we play, learn how to play with his teammates. More importantly, with Eddie Howe, get his fitness levels up to speed, and let the club develop him themselves for what they want from him.
Could Shaw's contract negotiations hinder on this player signing, you think?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think I think you most players like that, they're gonna fancy themselves that they'll, if they're good enough, they're gonna win that position down. I don't think anybody's expecting to play 100% of games these days because of squad rotation and the number of games that we play. So there's always going to be opportunities and switching players in and out. And Fabian Schär may get a new contract, but it's not going to be that long-term option.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Next player I want to move on to then is another centre-back, 18-year-old Jumar. He's 6'5", right-footed, and this person looks like an absolute tank. Same frame as Sven Botman. A little bit younger, obviously, only 18. He's currently playing in Spain for Real Valladolid.
I'm not convinced he's 18, but anyway, we'll
well, yeah, depending where
we'll file that one under the Obi Martins.
Yes,
birth certificate things, I think. But
he's currently playing for Real Valladolid. Again, I probably absolutely butchered that one. I do apologise. But he's on loan from AIK Freetown. He's been making waves in Spain right now. He is again going to be another developmental player. He's not the type of person who's going to walk into the squad and just replace Burn or Shaw or Botman or whoever. He would be a player that I imagine we would sign and then instantly ship out on loan, only for sure that to ruin his career, like he seems to do with every other loanee. But if he is a youngster, we get in for around about 8 to 10 million, again, is the rumoured fee. It's another youngster. I know you said you don't have a problem with buying youngsters, but we need to probably improve the squad with players who can come straight in at the start 11. And that gets us straight on to the next player. And this is a player who has been linked with us for quite some time now, Johan Bakayoko of PSV. Now, you're quite excited about this player, Mark.
So out of the three so far, he's definitely the one that's probably most ready to step into a first team position with us, and get first team football sooner rather than later. Again, there's no way he comes straight into the squad and starts games, but that is the Eddie Howe way, and it's worked pretty well so far. So I'm not going to complain about that. The other two for me, I think, are definitely developmental prospects. The first guy I'm not convinced about. I think he obviously, as soon as you've mentioned these players to me, I went away and did my due diligence and scouted them on YouTube as everyone does. Now he looks like he's good physical. He plays the ball quite well, but he looks a bit rash in the tackle. So that would need to be stamped out because, you know, the Premier League's a yard quicker than pretty much every other league in the world. And it's going to be very, very easy for those studs up challengers that manage to catch the ball in other leagues to end up with a red card if he starts trying to do that shit in the Premier League. So, the other lad, 18, he's not nowhere near ready for first team football. But having said that, he does look an absolute unit. He looks really comfortable on the ball. He's very, very good with his passing. Doesn't dive in like the other guy does. So I'd probably be favouring him as an option, just because I think, like, if you can stay on your feet and play the ball and not dive in, you're not going to end up in as much trouble in the Premier League with pacey forwards, essentially. Bakayoko, though, he kind of reminds me very much of what we all wanted to see with Minte. Very, very similar skill set in terms of pacey. He's going to go past players. He's going to take players on. He's going to kind of cut inside. He's going to score goals. He's going to get assists. Very kind of similar athletic profile to what we're constantly told we're linked with in terms of a right wing option. What I saw, I think Kev Lawson it was on Twix. He was suggesting he's not convinced that his goals will translate, even though his assists may. Now the Eredivisie is not exactly the strongest league in the world. We've seen for ourselves when we've had De Jong here, didn't exactly translate well to goals in the Premier League. There's not as much time, there's not enough space, so players can struggle. I think Kev Lawson mentioned Anthony as an option as well. That, you know, Dutch players that can do well in Holland, but like struggle when they get to the Premier League. But let's be fair, everyone's struggling in that Man United side at the moment. So I'm not gonna sort of hold that against the player. But look, I mean, to me, he looks like he ticks all the boxes for what we would be after. He is a left-footed right winger, so he's going to play that inverted winger role that Eddie Howe loves to play. But more importantly, he can score goals. He can set up players. He can run past players. He seems to have a really good skill set in terms of ball control. Really pacey player. So even if he just knocks the ball past players, he's going to give them a run for their money. And more importantly, as a direct upgrade on the hopefully outgoing Migy, he can actually use his right foot as well. And he's actually really capable of whipping balls into the box to set up players with his right foot. Gives him that really difficult to guard mentality for the defenders because they don't know which way he's going to do. He can score goals if he cuts in, or he can cross the ball in and actually set players up if he goes on the outside. So yeah, look, to me, I think he would be great. I'll be honest with you, I have absolutely no understanding of how his game in terms of positional awareness, how defensively solid and disciplined he can be. That would be something that we would probably have to ask a PSV fan who watches him week in, week out. And that to me would probably be the one thing that I'd be questioning. But his work rate looks high enough. He looks like he's willing to graft. So that immediately puts him high on the Eddie Howe priority list for me.
Yeah, I mean, he played 48 games for PSV last season, and he's a Belgian international. And most people don't walk into that Belgian squad if you don't have an ounce of talent in you. They've got some world-class players in that squad there. But last summer, Brentford actually had a bid of 40 million euros accepted. The PSV were keen to move the player on, even though he scored 14 and assisted 14 goals in those 48 games. But the player turned the move down. He wanted to stay and develop his game a little bit further. But according to quite a few media sources out there, the player is keen to make the move to Tyneside to join Eddie and the lads. Whether there's any truth in that, no one really knows. But it looks like this one could have a bit more truth to it than maybe some of the other names that have been very loosely mentioned. One other name that has been mentioned in a little bit of a thorn in our side for that 4-2 game at Brentford was my good friend Brian Mbeumo. He's the player that I would love at the club, but I think he's just going to be a little bit too rich for us this window. You reckon, mate?
Look, in terms of that, what you were saying before, like you don't want to just start buying just youngsters at the moment. We're not quite there yet, where we do still need some established senior players.
Yeah.
He just ticks all the boxes for that. He is proven Premiership quality. He's still young enough where you're going to get the best part of his career. But I just think, even though his contract situation's a little bit like Mark Gay's, where he's kind of got a year left on his contract at the end of this season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's
You've got
I'm not sure.
An option to extend it as well.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if that's the case, then I just can't see us being able to afford him more than anything. Yeah. I think he would be a brilliant player for us. I think he's exactly what we need. I just don't think we're going to spend that much on a winger this certainly not in January anyway.
No, it'd be almost foolish of Brentford to let him go in January as well. He's pretty much their best player since what's his face left for the Saudi Pro League. Keep forgetting his name. But yeah, he's their star man. I don't think wages will be an issue. It will just be the transfer fee. And again, he's just a little bit too rich for our blood right now. But if we can pull one or two high quality signings off, if we get the likes of Bakayoko in, maybe one or two under the radar surprises come the end of the window, all the better for it. And as long as the team is strengthened come the 1st of February, I think everybody will be absolutely happy for the window. Your thoughts on the main position that we need strengthened? I think I can probably guess this one off the same as everybody else.
Right wing, unless we sell Dubravka and someone else in the keeper stable, and then we desperately need a new keeper in as well.
Yes.
There's talk of Trafford still being on the radar. Trafford's keen to move. Apparently, we've already agreed personal terms. Whether or not Burnley are going to want to sell mid-season when they're looking like they're pushing for promotion back to the Premier League is another kind of question mark over that deal in January, certainly. And yeah, like right wing for me, I think is the main area where at the moment we're kind of benefiting from a Migy-like purple patch from Jacob Murphy. I think he's playing really well. He's always capable of that, but it's that consistency that I think we're all a bit concerned about. And if that drops off, then it creates a problem as to who we've got on that right-hand side. So if we can move Migy on and we can get a Bakayoko in, even that, I think it gives us an option with a development style player who is still probably an upgrade on Murphy.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. But let us know in the comments down below who you think we should be targeting this window. Realistic names, if possible, and who your dream signing would be as well, actually. Let us know that one down there. But Mark, before we jump off and we go and enjoy some nice alcoholic beverages, just want to get a quick prediction for you on whether we will see the year out in style by taking 3 points at Old Trafford, or whether we will come away with the usual negative result.
If this was played on paper, we should walk it, and we should actually come away with quite a hefty win. Make a statement and sort of sign off the year in style. We should, put a bit of daylight between us and them in the league in terms of European spots. Build on our good form at the moment. This is Newcastle, so it's Old Trafford, it's Man United. They're probably primed and ready to turn into Fergie style levels of Man U for one game against us, and we'll fail to turn up or something. It's just, I can't shake that from my head, and I know I should be quite positive about this. And I just can't bring myself to get excited about us putting in a really good performance and hammering them at their place, because there's just so much history there of us being absolutely dire when we turn up to Old Trafford, and you know for a fact that if there's the Villa fans are still moaning about the red card at the at St James's Park the other day, and I guarantee you if there is a 50-50 call, it goes Man United's way, and that's always the worry for me. If it's a close game, I can see it being a dodgy decision that goes against us. If we play to our best and they play how they've been playing lately, bearing in mind that I think Bruno Fernandes is out injured, or he's suspended, and someone else, someone else was suspended. Well. Yeah, so yeah, so look, I mean, on paper, if everything goes as it should, we should come away with a nice, comfortable win, which will be much appreciated at a ground that has caused fans an awful lot of heartache over the years.
So you want to give me a prediction then? New Year's prediction?
I'm going to say 3-1 to Newcastle, but it's only because my superstition stuff's gone out the way because I put Isak back in my fantasy football team. I've made him captain, and I used my triple captain points token, and he scored his hat-trick the other day. So that's kind of done away with my stressing about jinxing everyone. So yeah, 3-1 to Newcastle.
I'll go 2-0. They don't have Fernandes, who normally pulls their strings, so they will be down in creative level. So I'm going to go 2-0. Newcastle win. Bruno and Isak on the score sheet.
So Anthony hat-trick for them, and we're going to get beaten like 5-0.
Probably more than likely. Yeah, you got the 100 million pound fidget spinner's going to turn into prime Messi, isn't he, or prime Maradona, one of the two. It'll just be our bloody luck. But now we will leave it there, Mark. Thanks very much for joining on. Thanks to everybody who's been watching and listening. Please leave some comments down below in the box if you want to ask us any questions, any players you think we should sign, as mentioned before, who you want to see moved on, and also your predictions for the Man United game. Again, Mark, thanks very much. I will see you on the next one.
Indeed. Cheers. And if I don't see you beforehand, have a happy new year.